History happened everywhere. A random place, a random time, and a topic pulled from the hat.
No, this is our Euro special.
History happened everywhere.
I'm Jim Colson, your commentator for today's activities. Hello and welcome to the HHE Stadium here in Croydon. It is a game of two halves today, and the anticipation has been building, but the preparation's over. The research has been done, and it is time for one of these two managers ahead of us today to write their names into the history books. A Euros country, the date of a Euros tournament, and a topic pulled from the hat. Today Ryan is here representing Denmark 2008 and blue, with Peter here for Germany 1964 and business. It seems on paper an evenly matched affair. We'll see how it goes. Anything can happen now. The talk has finished, the nations expect, and you are almost ready here at the HHE Stadium for kickoff.
Denmark, officially the Kingdom of Denmark. It's a parliamentary monarchy. So we've talked about these in the past. It's where you've got a king, but you've also got a prime minister at the same time. The future queen is going to be from Tasmania.
No.
How about that? They're going to have a Tasmanian queen.
Oh, and a ripple of applause goes round the stadium there. You can tell the crowd are very pleased with that fact.
It's one of the Nordic countries in Northern Europe. Southernmost of the Scandinavian countries. So south of Norway, down and to the left of Sweden. On its southern border of Denmark, you've got Germany.
I'm aware of Germany, yes.
Oh, okay.
You're saving me a lot of time later, by the way. You've covered a lot of ground for me. I will not be repeating this, so pay attention, people, and remember where Germany is.
There is a peninsula just off the coast of Denmark called Jutland.
Is that because it juts into the sea?
I guess so. Denmark was flattened. Back in the Ice Age, mile-high sheets of ice crept down from the north and just leveled the entire ground. So it's super flat now. It's such that they have bridges which are now higher than the highest area of land in the country. So you can be at the top of a bridge and be higher than any other hill or other peak in the landscape.
Wow. They have plant a flag in the top of each bridge. I made it. I made it to the summit. 43,000 square kilometres in land area. So it's about 16,500 square miles. 15 Denmarks in a France. But it also has 2 autonomous territories in the North Atlantic. So there's the Faroe Islands and also Greenland. It qualifies essentially as an intercontinental state, which increases its size to 2,200,000 square kilometres, 853,000 square miles. That's 3.5 Frances. It's a boost.
It is a boost. And I think you'll probably find it's bigger than Germany. Just saying.
Oh, it's competitive, is it?
I'm just saying.
Wow.
Population of 5.84 million people.
Sorry, how many?
Denmark.
5.84.
5.84,
okay,
yeah.
Just recalling these things. Should there be a competitive element to this?
The capital is Copenhagen.
It's wonderful, I've heard.
Copenhagen.
Wonderful, wonderful Copenhagen.
That's beautiful. What's that? I don't even know that.
That's a song about Copenhagen.
How have I not picked that up in my research?
Can drink one down to wonderful, wonderful Copenhagen.
Etc. That's great.
I genuinely have no idea where that comes from. That is a thing that's in my brain.
Yeah.
Sitting on its own.
Never heard
unmoored.
Of it. That was beautiful. I loved it.
Hello. This is the voice of the internet. Peter is attempting to sing Wonderful Copenhagen, a song written by Frank Loesser for the 1952 film, Hans Christian Andersen. Considered to be the best song in the movie, Wonderful Copenhagen is sung by Andersen's apprentice who recommends that they move to the Danish city. After the film was released, the songwriter was greeted as a national hero when he visited Denmark. Thank you.
The voice of the internet there, and in the run-up to this tournament there have been quite a lot of controversy over its use in this podcast arena. people saying it holding up the events and holding up the action, but I think it really proved very useful there. I think it's proved itself very worthwhile.
Denmark is said to enjoy a high standard of living every year, pretty much. It ranks highly in education, in healthcare, in equality, in the protection of civil liberties, and in democratic governance. So it's supposedly one of the happiest countries on earth. It is an EU member. Remember being an EU member? Remember those days? Yeah. But it still retains the Danish kroner as its currency. Some of the coins have holes in them, which doesn't mean anything. I looked it up. I thought, well, why do they have a hole in them? Literally nothing. It's just to act as a difference between other coins. And the hole actually has a name, the significant nothing, which if I'm ever going to have an autobiography written, it's going to be called The Significant Nothing.
I think that's a phrase I could apply to partners I've had in the past.
Yeah. And I've applied that about you.
Well, yes.
Quick Denmark facts. Home of Lego.
Oh, love a bit of Lego.
It's the greatest exporter of pork in the world.
Wow.
Hans Christian Andersen wrote The Little Mermaid. He was from Denmark.
I once went to Copenhagen, and the Little Mermaid statue is famously one of the things you go and see. So I trekked to the park in which the Little Mermaid is available, and it was on loan somewhere abroad.
Oh, no.
So I looked at the plinth, and then I went home.
I thought you were going to say it had fallen under the sea. That was a red card offence, I think. Tolland Man. Heard of Tolland Man?
Weirdly, I was reading about Tolland Man a couple of days ago.
No way.
Seriously.
Well, there you go. From Denmark. This was an Iron Age man who was in his 30s, who was suffocated by hanging in the year 280 BCE. And his body was discarded into a bog where it was preserved all these years, and it is now considered to be one of the most well-preserved bodies, bog bodies to date.
Yeah, I saw the pictures of it were astonishing. You see individual beard hairs. It's incredible.
It's really crazy. Apart from his hands. Don't look at his hands. Skeleton hands.
Were they breaking up out of the bog when they threw him in?
Yeah. Well, I guess they threw him maybe face first, and his hands were tied behind his back maybe, and his hands are all,
that's a shame.
Skeleton hands.
He's like, push me in further.
I want to come back.
I'm incomplete.
Yeah, bog bodies are amazing. That took me down a neat little wormhole of discovery.
Yeah, that's an afternoon you're not getting back, isn't it?
It is, but Denmark has loads of them. There are absolutely tons of them.
This is Champagne Podcasting.
The flag. You'll recognise the flag for sure. It's one of the oldest flags in the world. In fact, it is a flag that has been in most continuous use. Legend says that it was discovered around 1219 at the Battle of Lindenisse. The Danes were having a failing crusade in Estonia, and so they prayed to God, and a flag fell from the sky. It had a red background with a white cross on it, and that's still the one that they're using to this day. Would you like to hear the national anthem?
Let's have it.
All right. That's Kong Christian, and that's used for sort of royal ceremonies and military use.
I found it a little dreary.
Oh, well then maybe you'd like National Anthem number 2.
Ooh.
They have 2.
Crack on.
Between them and New Zealand, they're the only 2 countries in the world that have 2 national anthems. So this is the second one. There is a lovely land.
So if I was in the disco, as I frequently am,
The disco.
the discotheque,
All right, boomer.
boogieing, as I am prone to,
Yeah.
and I approached the DJ and I said to the DJ, hello, could you play the Danish national anthem for me, please?
Yeah.
As I also want to do. Which one would they play?
Well, it depends what kind of an event was happening. It's a civil disco, I'm guessing, rather than a royal disco.
Well,
I mean, you're making assumptions about
Well,
whose discos
it was
I'm
a question.
attending.
It was a question more than anything.
This is a civil disco, correct?
It's a civil disco. Then they would play National Anthem number 2, There Is a Lovely Land. I like that it's a lovely land.
Yeah, it's sweet, isn't it?
There's a little lovely land.
Because most national anthems are like, we're going to kill you, foreigners.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I didn't look at the lyrics. It could well be entire verses full of "we're going to kill you." This is the land of the Vikings, after all.
Yes. Well, some people would say that was quite a slow build-up, but I think very much worth it in the end for the result there.
Would you like to talk about football?
Let's talk about football.
I mean, that's what we're here for. So, football, or fodbold, which is Danish for football. You like that?
It's recognisable.
There's a whole bunch of Danish people out there now going, hey.
Yeah, well, let's add our customary apology to those people who
Buckle up, guys.
Are you ready to hear your language murdered beyond recognition?
Yeah. Anyway, fodbold is the national and most popular sport of Denmark. They are known as the Dynamic Danes, which is an awesome name. They play in a traditional red shirt and white shorts. Notable Danish footballers you might have heard of, Peter Schmeichel, also known as the world's best goalkeeper in 1992 and 1993.
I've heard of him, which means he is colossally famous because I know nothing about football.
His son Jesper Schmeichel, also now a famous goalkeeper as well.
I've never heard of him.
Mikael Laudrup, the best Danish player of all time, and Jon Thomasen, the joint top scorer in the history of Denmark with 52 goals. He's now currently the assistant manager of the national team, who we're going to be talking about a lot. The fans, they are known as the Rolligans.
Rolligans?
The Rolligans,
Does that translate to something? Or is it?
It does. So rollig means calm, and it is almost the opposite of hooligans. So it's like the collaboration between those two words, rollig and hooligans.
People who just storm your town and sort of rearrange the furniture and
That's
have
exactly
a nice,
right.
relaxed time.
Yeah, they're like known to be calm, quiet, well-mannered fans. In fact, in 1984, they won the UNESCO Fair Play Trophy. Pretty cool, right? I like Rolligans.
I love that. The Rolligans are coming. Get the soft furnishings out.
Okay, let's talk about the history. So the oldest sports club in continental Europe was established in 1876. It was the Københavns Boldklub.
Uh-huh.
So it was established in 1876. And at the time, football is being introduced to Denmark, and we're not quite sure how. Like, most people think it's by British sailors who were shipping in and saying, let's kick a ball around. And they're like, sure. But there is also a theory that there are Danish expats that were living in Britain at the time, and they brought the game home with them as well. So either way, football was introduced into Denmark around about 1876. And in fact, 1878, just 2 years later, Københavns Boldklub add football to their roster of the sports that they do. And KB, as they're known, they later become known as FC Copenhagen.
Aha.
So yeah, a club that goes back with quite a lot of history.
Oh, you can't stop history like that.
10 years later, there or thereabouts, 1889, the Danish Football Association is formed, and they start the first domestic league outside of the UK. And they are called the Dansk Boldspil Union, or the DBU. It translates as the Danish Ball Games Union. You'll see it on my badge here, right in the centre.
I see that, yes.
DBU. In England, we have the FA, they have the DBU.
The DBU sounds like a secret police of some kind.
It does. You don't want to be tracked down by the DBU, right? The FBI, the DBU.
DBU are knocking. Oh,
Yeah.
it's 3 a.m. and it's the
KGB.
DBU at the door. Would you like to play for our team? Oh, wow, this wasn't as bad as I was fearing.
Yeah. So also in 1889, the Copenhagen Football Championship starts, known as the Fodboldturneringen. 1896, KB, the sports club, they receive an invitation from the Olympic Games founder, a Baron Pierre de Coubertin. And they get an invite to participate in the 1896 Olympics. I just love the images in my head of 1896 Olympics.
They were smoking while they were playing.
Right, exactly.
With a pipe.
Yeah, in like woolen sports gear,
exactly.
just suits. Right, so they get invited to go and play in a demonstration match against Greece. So KB decides, yeah, sure, we're going to take part, but we're not going to send an entire team. And just to remind you, 11 players are at least needed football team. They sent 2.
I'm curious as to which were the 2 positions that they decided were critical to make
The forward and the keeper, I'm guessing.
The keeper's like, yep,
Just do your thing, really. It's just you. I'll stay here, protecting the goal.
Yeah.
You can take care of everything else.
Bear in mind, this is just a demonstration match, right? So anyway, Eugene Schmidt and Holger Nielsen, they were the two that were sent. And when they get there, they start going around the docks. Not for any, the ulterior
We've all
motives.
been travelling, Ryan. We know what happens.
They go around the docks, they pick up some Danish sailors. This is sounding worse. And some businessmen, some random businessmen, and they form their own little team. There's a movie to be made in this, I swear. And so they get these guys, and I guess they train them up a little bit, and then they play the match, which is interesting because we don't really know the result of the match. It wasn't officially reported
I would
anywhere.
imagine, was the result of the match. Oh, two dockers and a tax accountant running up the left wing.
Oh, and a very cheeky fact there. I don't think anyone was expecting that one.
We don't know what happened because the Greek crown prince Constantine, he gave an order not to mention unofficial sports. He only wanted the official sports to be mentioned in the press. And so that's what happened. And it wasn't until much later on that a Russian Olympic committee member who was there at the time and witnessed it, he reported that there was over 6,000 people attended the game and that Denmark won the game either 9-0 or 15-0.
Wow.
Yeah, which is a lot of the goals.
It's a lot of goals.
Yeah.
That spry sailor up front, probably piercing winger.
Yeah. Well, there you go. I mean, hopefully they brought them back with them. And
Yeah, this guy's
got a new
amazing.
team.
They really lucked out there.
yeah. Anyway, so there you go. That's the story of that. 1898, the Scottish club Queen's Park, or an amateur team, they go head-to-head with a Danish Select 11 this time.
We've learned.
And that's at the International Festival of Sports and Gymnastics in Copenhagen. 11,000 people turn up to watch them. And it's said that that's the game which made football popular in Denmark. 1906, a Danish team is invited to participate in the Intercalated Olympic Games. Which, do you know the Intercalated Olympic Games?
I do not know the Intercalated Olympic Games.
I did not either, so I had to look it up. It's essentially another Olympic Games. Someone else was like, I'm going to do an Olympic Games as well. So there were two sets. There was the Olympic Games and then there was the Intercalated Olympic Games. Anyway, Denmark went along and they defeated a Greek team. They played two clubs from the Ottoman Empire, which dates this somewhat.
Those canny Ottomans known for their forward attack.
And they win their first major international tournament.
Major? I'm going to question Major.
Well,
the Intercalated Olympic Games.
Yeah. Anyway, the DBU, they refuse to recognise it. They go, nope. They don't recognise the win because they say that Denmark isn't considered an official team. They're just amateurs still, right? These are just dock workers and a baker and his mate. So 1908, 2 years later, an official team takes part. They're like, right, we should probably officialise. So they take part in the 1908 Summer Olympics in London. And they come second. They win the silver medal. So they're a pretty good team. 1912, they win another Olympic silver medal. So they're really doing well. And in fact, they are ranked best team in the world at that point. Which I don't quite understand, given they were given the silver. I'm pretty sure the gold team were like, well, how is that possible? But there you go. Right, so then we head into the wilderness years, 1920 to 1948, and international competition starts to dwindle out. The DBU thinks there's no future in international games, and so they want the Danish players to focus on amateur football at home. And so they play friendly matches, occasionally participating in like regional championships with other Nordic countries. But internationally, globally, they come off the scene. And not until 1964 when Denmark qualify to the European Championship where they finish fourth. And the DBU goes, maybe there's money to be made in this, so we're going to allow professional players in the national team.
It's amazing what that arrival of that first suitcase full of cash does to opinions about the validity of a tournament.
Right, and so they do. Professional players start appearing in the national squad and also in the championships as well. So this is where it really starts to professionalise. 1982 is really where it starts to kick in terms of national football team. You've got 5 appearances in the World Cup where they reached the quarterfinals on 3 occasions. They were champions of the Confederation Cup in 1995. They were ranked number 3 team in the world in 1997. They qualified 6 times in a row for the Euros between 1984 and 2004 and became champions in 1992.
A quick 1-2 of facts. Very fascinating how they managed to slip them out as quickly as they do there.
So we're now into the 2000s, and we're heading towards my 2008 Euro tournament, which is the one that we're going to be talking about. So 2000, they were considered the worst team of the Euros. They had 3 defeats, and they had a goal difference of 0, meaning they didn't score any, and had 8 put past them in those 3 games. So not great. Because of that, they appointed a new manager, their former captain, a guy called Morten Olsen. The squad are then dubbed the Olsen Gang because there is a series of Danish movies based on like this criminal who was a bit of a genius called Egon Olsen.
Aha.
And so, yeah, the team are all called the Olsen Gang. 2002, Denmark is defeated 3-0 by England in round 16 of the World Cup. 2004, they're eliminated in the quarterfinals of the Euros by the Czech Republic. And in 2006, they just fail to qualify for the World Cup.
Dark times for Danish football.
But, you know, it's not terrible, but it's not great. Which brings us to Euro 2008.
And Ryan will really want to impress here. He has taken some criticism from the analysts, from the commentators, particularly Paul Dursley has been very harsh on him in recent times, but he's hoping to sway the judge with this one.
Euro 2008.
Yay.
Sound effects.
Crowd goes wild.
Whoop, whoop, whoop. Okay, so the qualifiers for the UEFA Euro 2008. If you're unaware, the Euro tournament, bunch of teams from Europe all competing to win. It's like a mini version of the World Cup, just within Europe itself. To enter, you have to qualify. You've got Group F, which is where Denmark is. Within that group, you've got the countries of Spain, Sweden, Northern Ireland, Latvia, Iceland, and Liechtenstein. It starts off positively. Denmark beat Iceland 2-0. They draw against Northern Ireland, which is less good, 0-0. They beat Liechtenstein 4-0, and then they lose against Spain 2-1.
Understandable.
So they've had 2 wins, 1 draw, and 1 loss. That's their position going into the next game. The next game is against Sweden. This is the first UEFA qualifying fixture between these two. They're going to play 2 games eventually. But this is a significant rivalry between these two. These are the neighbouring countries. They're on the borders, but they have history that goes back a long time that was very bloody and very aggressive. Now, more recently, that rivalry has become much more friendly. They see each other as neighbours and brothers in arms. But still, there is a huge rivalry when it comes to the sports, and they both want to win.
It's a derby, isn't it?
It is definitely a derby, yeah. So they played first in 1913, and of 107 games, 46 wins have gone to Sweden and 41 to Denmark.
Ooh.
So it's pretty close. So, 2nd of June, 2007. Denmark are hosting the game. 42,083 fans in attendance, one of which is Jesper Jacobson. Here's his recollection of the build-up to the game.
I was 19 and I was finishing up high school. So I brought my books along, and my stepfather brought some beers along. And we mostly did the beers. We live on the other side of the country, but Denmark isn't that big. So it's about a 5-hour train ride, I think. And I remember being a bit late. We walked from the train station to Parken Stadium, and it was so crowded when we got there. Such anticipation, so many fans who had gotten there early, especially a lot of Swedes. There must have been 10,000 Swedes in a 40,000 seater stadium. So they were really loud and boisterous, and as I said, it's a very friendly rivalry. So it wasn't mean atmosphere, just a fabulous day out. The team wasn't doing that good. Denmark was regular qualifiers for the Euros actually ever since 1984. I think we qualified every single time, winning famously in 92. But the 2008 tournament was the first one, the first Euro since then, which we were about to miss. And I remember there was quite a bit of disappointment around the national side at the time. And the Denmark coach, Morten Olsen, he wasn't allowed to be the coach for that Sweden game. So he was, I don't know, at home or in the stands. He wasn't on the bench anyways. The team wasn't that great. The outlook wasn't that great. The coach was suspended. But this is the game against the biggest rivals that Denmark has. So we were up for it, and I do remember that Parken Stadium was absolutely full.
So there we go. That's Jesper there.
I'll be honest with you, the team wasn't great, the outlet wasn't great. This is a familiar story as an England person. And also did I mention 92? Sorry.
Yeah.
Exactly like, yeah, well, in 66, we did win the World Cup, you know.
Can I just ask that you don't rile the Vikings? Just they're listening, Pete. So that's Jesper. Yeah, I don't want to leave it too much longer. So let's get into the stadium with Jesper and let's hear his thoughts on the game itself.
We were held up trying to get into the stadium because obviously they have to frisk everybody and people were in high spirits. So, you know, it's like the security check in the airport when people aren't really ready for what's going to happen. So everybody took a long time. So we got into the stadium. We didn't make it to the national anthem and we were pissed about that because that's really a highlight. So we found our seats just as Sweden went ahead.
Invader, Thomas Sorensen og mellem benene på Thomas Sorensen. Johan Invader. Kæmpe fejl nede i det danske forsvar fra Michael Gravgaard.
Within half an hour, Sweden are 3-0 up, and behind the Danish goals were 10,000 Swedes, so just a sea of yellow, obviously having a fantastic time, and really drowning out a completely stunned and silent Danish crowd. And then, shortly before half-time, we got a goal back, so made it 3-1.
Sådan. Så er der i hvert fald taget hul fra dansk side. Andet landskabsmål fra Daniel Lager.
It's a spark of hope, and it was. So I remember being down, but not down and out. And then the second goal came fairly early in the second half.
Going 2-3. Så tager vi fat i parken. Jon Dahl Thomasson.
Obviously now it's 3-2 and people are really optimistic. And when the equalizer came, that's the loudest, most boisterous stadium I've ever been in. It was so much fun.
Leon Andreasen. Godt spark, Leon Andreasen. En kikset aflevering faktisk over for Jesper Jacobson.
We were going to win 4 or 5-3, and we were going to, have the party of a lifetime in Copenhagen. We would have absolutely sung Sejler op ad åen, which is we're sailing up the creek, we're sailing down again. So people will be, locking arms and then bobbing and weaving sideways. So it's sort of a drunken Mexican wave or something like that. But it really does sounds like sort of your Irish drinking song. It's Sejler op ad åen, sejler ned again. Only in the voices of 40,000. And then the song most commonly associated with national team football in Denmark is the one that the 1986 team, it's called Re-Sepp-Ten, which roughly translates as the recipe, i.e. the recipe for success. It was sung by Frank Arnesen in the original recording, and it's still, that's the one.
That's Re-Sepp-Ten.
That sounds amazing.
Right?
What a time. I want to be linked arms with a pair of Danes right now.
Oh, man. Isn't that awesome, though?
Oh, that's great.
Right. So, quick recap on what Jasper was just saying, because I feel that you may have been thrown by the music there. So
I was carried away by the tunes.
So Sweden go 3 goals up, right, within the first half hour of the game. Denmark come back with 3 goals of their own, and things are great. But in the 89th minute, things change. Denmark's Christian Poulsen and Sweden's Marcus Rosenberg, they start getting into a little tussle in the Danish penalty area. And Rosenberg hits Poulsen, but Poulsen turns round and punches Rosenberg full in the stomach. The referee, Herbert Fundel, confers with his assistant, and he sends off Poulsen. So Denmark are now down to 10 men. Bearing in mind this is the 89th minute, which means you've got 1 minute left to go of the game. He then turns and he gives the penalty to Sweden. So, arch rivals Sweden now have 1 minute to score a penalty to win the game. Things are not looking great for Denmark. But then things get worse. I'll let Jesper explain.
So I didn't see the moment where Christian Poulsen hit Marcus Rosenberg in the stomach. So I didn't pick up on what had happened, and the German referee just suddenly pointed to the spot and what happened, and it was a penalty for Sweden, and it was devastating, absolutely deflating. Sort of the air went out of the stadium. Poulsen was a decent player, but a bit of a hothead. I was watching the ref, I think, and I remember sort of out of the corner of my eye, a figure climbing over, the ad stands and making his way onto the pitch. And I sort of yelled out just at the moment he lashed out the referee, and thankfully a Danish defender, Michael Grafgaard, got in the way. He only touched the referee's neck, but he didn't get a punch in.
Straffespark oven i købet. Så bliver dommeren overfaldet af en tilskuer.
Det er godt der.
Nej, det er meget, 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 meget skidt.
Jeg tror, det er Christian Poulsen, der blev vist ud.
So he was impeded by the Danish defenders, and he was just sort of stood there, and I think Akker spoke to him, and he sort of made his way back and was picked up by stewards. And then the ref left the pitch, and we were just sat there. We didn't know what was going to happen. There was, at that point, it was just murmuring and confusion. What just happened? And as I said, I think at least half the stadium hadn't seen the incident because it was just in a flash. So people were calling and texting friends and asking what are they saying on the telly and trying to figure out what's going on. While we were waiting, a few idiots made it onto the pitch. And I remember thinking, these guys really aren't helping, because how's the ref going to feel secure returning to the pitch at this point? And I was actually quite angry, not just with the invader himself and the other pitch invaders, but also with the security staff. And I think, why aren't they closing this down? Within half an hour, we were just sort of told, Denmark has lost, please leave the stadium. So that was the weirdest feeling. It was so loud and boisterous and optimistic just a few moments ago. We just had to leave the stadium, and we were sure that we were going to win, not just win, but win famously, perhaps the best game ever between Denmark and Sweden. And suddenly we'd lost. We'd lost to Sweden, and we were going to certainly miss the Euros, and that was just it. I remember just filing out of the stadium and meeting Swedes outside. They were basically just as confused. It was just so weird, because it to this day still is the best game I ever saw, but it had such a strange conclusion.
Wow.
Right? So let me recap. So the referee awards the penalty for the punch that Poulsen did after he red carded the player. A Danish fan clambers out of the seating, runs onto the field, and throws a punch at the referee.
It's famously worked. It's missed so many times in the past.
I mean,
to change
why
their
not give
mind
it
on
a go?
decision?
Yeah, but he sort of misses, I guess, because he's a bit drunk, and he ends up sort of grabbing the ref around the neck. A Danish defender, Michael Grafgaard, he gets between the fan and the referee, and he starts talking to him. The fan leaves the pitch, where he's picked up by stewards and immediately seized, right? The referee and the assistants get together, and they have a quick discussion on the pitch, and then they all just walk off the field. The game is abandoned at that point. The stadium, as Jesper says, is totally unsure what's happened, because obviously they didn't hear the conversation that the referee's having. They're just still trying to understand what's going on. An announcement is made saying that the game is over and that Sweden have won 3-0. So they've just removed all of the Danish goals. So at that point, the teams then just leave the pitch. The game is completely done. So all the fans are now just sitting in the stadium like, what now? And of course, nothing happens, except another fan runs onto the pitch, takes the ball from the penalty spot, which of course never got kicked, runs down the pitch with it and kicks it in the Sweden's goal.
A consolation goal? I don't know.
Finally, a third fan then comes on the pitch and he just runs across the pitch. So what happened next?
This is a quiz question. Because honestly, it's pretty hard to predict right now.
Yeah.
We went for a few beers and sort of just vented. The guy who invaded, the guy who lashed out at the ref, my stepdad and I were blaming him, but the entire nation was blaming this guy. Within days, he was just massively unpopular. And he was dubbed Tosun, which means sort of the football loony. And stories came out that he actually lived in Malmö. So he was living in Sweden, and conspiracy theories. Did he try to help Sweden in some way? And it was so strange. That was in the sort of in the tabloid press, but he was a figure in sort of serious news media as well, because the Danish FA was seeking compensation. Eventually, they sued him, I think, and he actually, but he was fined, and the Danish FA they had to play their next qualifiers. We had a qualifier against Spain coming up, and initially they had to play that. I think it was a 250 kilometer radius away from Copenhagen. And then I think UEFA sort of realized that Denmark isn't that big. So they scaled down the punishment. And there was one corner of the country called Thisted, which is sort of in the far northwestern corner of Denmark. And that was the only stadium within the professional ranks in Danish football. But it's a very, very small ground. We're talking non-league stuff. And I just remember the notion of the Danish national team having to go to Lerpytter Stadium. I can't even translate that word. It means sort of muddy pitch stadium or something like that. And it's not even ironically, that's the name of the stadium. So
Right. Oh, Jesper Jacobson there, ladies and gentlemen. Awesome. What a guy. Right. So post-game, there was immediately a disciplinary hearing took place. That took place on the 8th of June, so like a week later. And it was to confirm the decision to award the match to Sweden. Pending the decision, the Danish FA, the DBU, they suspended all tickets for Denmark's next two qualifiers because I guess they felt like there was a chance that they weren't going to be playing those. And the results of the hearing were this. Sweden was awarded the match, 3-0. Denmark was fined €66,000. Denmark was told to play their next 4 home qualification matches, i.e. the rest of the competition, at least 250 kilometres, 160 miles away from Copenhagen. And the next match against Liechtenstein was to be behind closed doors. So pretty strict.
Interestingly, that fact has attracted a lot of attention recently from other history podcasts, so we may not see it still at History Happened Everywhere for too much longer. I guess we'll see what happens in the close season.
The Danish FA were undeniably shocked by the scope of the rulings, in their own words, and immediately announced that they were intending to appeal. On the 5th of July then, an appeal has taken place and UEFA decides to replace their original verdict. They decide that Sweden should continue to be awarded the 3-0 win. That wasn't changing, but they reduced the fines by half, so it's now only €30,000. Parken Stadium in Copenhagen was then closed for the 4 official competition matches. 2 games were then deferred for like a probationary period of 2 years. The 2 teams, so Sweden and Denmark, then met again for their second qualifier match. Remember, they have to play each other twice, one at each other's home. And they met in Stockholm on the 8th of September, and the game ended in a draw, 0-0. My guess is trying to reduce as much chance of drama as possible. Yeah.
They're going, no, you take it. No, you take it.
And so Sweden eventually qualified for UEFA Euro 2008, and Denmark was eliminated. They didn't make it through. So I want to talk about just a couple of things here. First of all, the law and the referee. In my head, and I was talking to Jasper about this, I was saying, look, with just 1 minute left of the game, would it not have made sense for the referee to just, rather than like abandoning the game, the guy had left the pitch, they could have just taken the penalty, had the draw or the win, and then that would have decided things. Let the game decide things rather than just sort of abandoning it at that stage. Well, so I looked into this and I talked to some referees and I spoke to them about the law of the game. And the law of the game talks about stopping and restarting play when an outside agent enters the field of play. Now, it doesn't matter if the outside agent is a supporter or whether it's a toddler that runs onto the pitch accidentally, or an animal, or just like an object that falls from the sky or is, blows in on the wind. The rule is play must stop if there is interference and the game restarted with a dropped ball, which is if 2 players facing each other, you drop the ball in front of them and away you go from there. So depending on who or what this outside agent is and the danger that they present, the referee should attempt to remove them. So if a great white shark falls out of the sky onto the pitch, it might be best that the referee doesn't try and move the shark off the pitch or ask it to move. Law 5 of the laws of the game says that if they can't remove the outside agent safely, the referee should abandon the match. So in that instance, you would think, well, the guy had already left, so maybe you could have just continued it. But then there's another law which says if spectators are attacking players or a match official, it is no longer safe to continue the match and it should be abandoned immediately.
Wow.
So he was following the rule of the law. So in this instance, the fan ran on the pitch, attacked the official, the referee. The referee brought the match officials together. They left the field. They abandoned the game. They wrote a report which was about the incident and wrote down what the status of the game was when they left it. And at that point, they're kind of done. Everything else is then out of their control. It all goes over to UEFA, the tournament holders, as they have their own set of rules that they then need to apply. So the referee doesn't declare who wins or loses. They just follow the rules as set out. The competition authority decides that for them.
Oh, he's really bringing home the Danish bacon.
So, it's worth bearing in mind that if you're the referee, you have no reason to trust that the field is now secure, right? A fan has run on the pitch and attacked you. That doesn't. The local security staff that are in the stadium clearly aren't able to control the fans from getting onto the field. So it was only really the fact that the players got in the way and intervened and prevented the fan from getting to the referee that things weren't actually made worse. So, in that instance, the referee just didn't consider it to be safe, and so that was the end of it.
I mean, it's not his job to then go, do you know what, make a better game, it was only a minute, and so on. It's his job to go, this is the rules.
Yeah.
As soon as the referee starts going, I think I'm going to spend it this time to make a good game, you've got problems, haven't you? So I've got a lot of sympathy for that guy.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, the security at the stadium took a lot of the hit for allowing that to happen. There was an editorial in one of the more serious papers in Danish press along the fact that there could have been serious consequences. And if one fan can get through, 5 can get through, and if 5 get through, then hundreds could suddenly you just got the whole pitch is invaded. So abandoning really was the only way that the referee could have acted in that instance. And it acts as a punishment for the future as well, right? Like, you came here to watch football, you ruined it, so there's no football, right? You don't get to continue to watch football and also behave poorly. It's an incentive for supporters to manage their own as well, to not encourage people and cheer people on when they run onto the pitch, but to say, don't do that, otherwise we've all just wasted our time and our money for being here. Yeah, and you know what? Like, this was high profile. This was in the press. It was watched on TV by everyone. It was a national game. So this could have prevented this from happening in other matches. So, this was a good example that was being said. So who was the referee? The referee was Herbert van Dahl. He was a German referee. He was once voted both second best and third worst referee in the Bundesliga. Which is
you're doing well if you're both of those. If you're angering and pleasing people in equal measures.
Yeah, that's right.
You're in the middle somewhere, presumably.
He was in charge for the 2006 UEFA Cup final and the 2007 Champions League final. So someone with clout. He ended his career just 2 years after this in 2009, where he then went on to serve as the German FA's referee commissioner, head of that, since 2010. So he's still doing it to this day. So this is someone with real reputation and credibility.
Oh, and he's played through that fact beautifully.
And speaking about it, he later said in an interview, "At first I thought, why is this happening to me?" It was a huge soccer game up to the 88th minute. What unfortunately gets lost in the reporting is that it was one of the best games I've ever whistled. It was such a fantastic offensive game with numerous chances on both sides, an incredible game that deserved a different ending. By the way, up to that point, it was absolutely fair. I only had to pull out 2 yellow cards. It was a pleasure for me to be allowed to accompany this game up to this situation.
Oh, it's heartbreaking, really, isn't it? It's such a great game that was just demolished by an idiotic last minute.
Absolutely.
Oh, and he's played through that fact beautifully.
So let's talk about the football Tosun.
Cool.
Yeah, it's such a great name, football Tosun. So immediately after the game, the pitch invader, he becomes like this target of all the anger.
This isn't going to end well for him, I don't think.
As Jesper was saying, yeah, there were serious threats against him, right? So publication of his name was banned. It was censored by court order. And most of the press complied. Newspaper Extra Bladet, I'm not pronouncing that right, I'm sure. Extra Bladet. They were just identifying him by the initial R rather than giving names or anything. The Danish tabloid BT, however, ran a petition asking the public for help in identifying him.
There's always one, isn't there?
Going further by publishing his full name and residential status in their online edition.
Ooh.
Yeah, and they announced him as the fan was 29-year-old Dane Ronny Norvig.
The R checks out.
It does, yeah, Ronny. They weren't lying. So, outed in the press, Norvig tries to get ahead of all this, and so he does a quick interview with the paper Ekstrabladet, saying, "I want to say I'm sorry to everyone in Denmark. I spoiled a fantastic evening for so many." And everyone kind of accepted that apology.
Really?
That was kind of the end of things.
Wow.
No, it wasn't.
No.
Okay, that was not
more.
sufficient.
Oh, he's really bringing home the Danish bacon.
In fact, Norvig was taken to court. And there he said that he had drunk about 15 to 18 beers before the match and had little memory of the actual incident. He said that he was angered by the red card on Poulsen, and he wanted to tell the referee that his decision was, in quotes, nonsense. So he said that he couldn't recall actually attacking the referee at all. And he apologised. He said, "It was incredibly stupid of me. I want to apologise to Denmark, Sweden and the referee for my inhuman behaviour."
I think there's probably a longer list than that, frankly. Football, referees, officials, the law, anybody who cares about anything.
Just please,
everybody
I'm so sorry.
in the world. I'm so sorry. Everything about this was a terrible, terrible idea.
Right. So the court case ends and judgment comes in, and he's given a suspended sentence of 30 days in prison. So he doesn't have to do it. If he does anything else, then he'll have to go in and do those 30 days. The prosecution, however, didn't find that sufficient. So they appealed, and the sentence was then changed to a 20-day sentence that had to be served. So he goes into prison. He does 20 days in prison.
So famously, if you go into prison as a sex offender, you're a marked man. I can only imagine it was a similar experience going to prison as the guy who ruined that moment for all of Denmark.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how it works in Denmark, what Danish prisons are like. Either way, going to prison for a month is not a great thing.
You can't argue with facts.
Anyway, he does it. So Ronny Norvig, he does his time. He comes out of prison, at which point the DBU then decides they're going to sue him. And so he's taken back to court for commercial damage resultant from their disqualification. And they claim 7 million Danish kroner, that's 940,000 euros, for the loss of ticket sales, and 1,900,000, that's 255,000 euros for related commercial losses. So just over €1 million.
Do we know Ronny's job at this time? Is he a high earner?
It was said that he couldn't afford that. However, because of the security at Parken Stadium and how inadequate it was for allowing him on the pitch, instead they brought that down and they sued for around about 215,000 euros with another 120,000 for the commercial related losses. So just over 300,000 euros. So he appealed directly to the DBU for compassion, and the fine was then lowered to 250,000 Danish kroner, which is 35,000 euros.
That seems like a more payable fine, to be honest.
Than £1 million, £1 million euros.
Well, I guess that's everything I'm ever going to earn, ever.
Yeah. So there's that.
Oh, he'll be over the moon with that one.
Yeah, and at this point, attitude starts to change. People feel like, all right, enough, right? Enough's enough, right? It was a stupid mistake. We've all made stupid mistakes. He's just done it on a massive scale.
It's an epic stupid mistake, but it is still a stupid mistake.
Right, exactly. And so time passes, 4.5 years pass, and Ronny Norvig goes on to give a televised interview with Go Aften Denmark. And here's a clip of it.
Ja, fordi det er jo oplagt at spørge, hvad er det dog, der får dig til at reagere på den her måde?
There is no apology that is good enough to excuse the way I reacted. But the closest is 9 months earlier, my mom got hospitalized in a mental hospital with a heart depression and psychosis. And I had used the last 9 months to support my mom, and this was the first time that I could go out and have fun with my friends. I think it was a year's frustration that went out in 13 seconds, which sadly hurt somebody that had nothing to do with me.
Ronny, the whole of Denmark was mad at you. So what do you want to say to all the people who are really mad at you over what you did?
I will always stand by it and apologize, which I have already done. I will happily give my apologies again and again. It was an action that was unforgivable in many eyes. But luckily, in many cases, I have been forgiven, and I will be thankful for that forever.
So how has the last 4.5 years been since this match?
It has been the largest down in my life, but at the same time it has been the largest up, because I am now a dad to a beautiful little girl and a beautiful boy.
So you have a wife?
No, I have a girlfriend.
Oh, you have a girlfriend. So she has both been a spectator to what happened on the field and what has happened to your life since. How has she taken that?
She has been the most fantastic support you can ever imagine. She has cheered me up when I was down, with panic, anxiety, and she has cheered me up when I have cried. She has cheered me up when I lost my mom, and she has supported me in a way I could never thank her enough for.
Okay, two things. Number one, way to go, Danish people, for translating all that for us. That is absolutely fantastic.
How awesome was that, right?
Yeah. Secondly, I've got tears in my eyes. This is awful.
Yeah. Firstly, I should say thank you to those for translating it. So, well, first of all, a big thank you to Reddit user Alexandersupertrampr for finding the clip. I was struggling to find it, and he was able to identify that. It was then translated, because, of course, I don't understand Danish.
Or famously can't say any Danish words well.
Indeed. So a huge thank you to Marius Sorensen, who took the time out to take the clip and translate that for me into essentially a script that I was then able to give to Tor Baggen and Karen Brund, who will act that out for us.
Oh, thanks so much, guys. That was really vivid and amazing.
Yeah, it was great stuff. So that's Ronny Norvig, the story of him. Yeah. and I'm going to leave it there, and I feel like people should leave it there too. Well, it's part of the history of the game, and it is what it is.
I think this is my opportunity to perhaps remind people that the topic was blue, and I'm fairly clear here as to the way in which blue has been really rather magnificently covered it.
Yeah, there you go. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was just about to say, and that's your blue. Nicely depressing moment.
Oh, that's a delightful touch for a big man.
So let's talk about Christian Poulsen just as a last little thing. So there's a lot of focus on Ronny, and, rightly so. He did what he did. But I was curious about the reaction to Christian Poulsen, right? This is the guy who punched a man on the pitch. Didn't he? He did, yeah. He lit the fire. So Poulsen was red carded, as we know, and all the events followed because of what he did. So obviously he did encounter some blame for the loss. Someone called the police on him, in fact, and demanded that he be arrested for violent conduct. Frederik, the Crown Prince of Denmark, he criticised his behaviour, saying it was terrible and a very embarrassing behaviour on the Danish side. Not great.
From a Crown Prince, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll take that from a guy at the bus stop, but when a Crown Prince is saying, I'm like, oh, this is bad.
Maybe I did something not right. Yeah, the Danish Justice Minister, Lene Espersen, called for an involuntary national team hiatus to be given to Poulsen. Involuntary. And perhaps worse, Copenhagen Police Chief Inspector Flemming Steen Munch went further, saying, "It is about time to set an example. It has almost become acceptable to be violent on the pitch, but violence should not be accepted on the pitch or in society. The TV images clearly show how the Swede is punched in the stomach. My immediate opinion is that according to the penal code, the act will lead to a 30-day imprisonment."
Oh, we can have Ronny in prison.
No comment.
However, reeling that back in slightly, his boss, the police chief and superintendent, later said that the comments about possible charges were premature. Football is a contact sport, he says. So, the starting point is that the sport's own courts should handle this, not the police. And you know what he used? He used violence on the hockey rink in ice hockey as an example or evidence about the acceptability of violence in sport, and that it's not subject to the court of law. So anyway, Poulsen was blamed.
His name was essentially stained publicly. He became less popular than he perhaps otherwise would have been, but it could have been worse. It seems that Ronny was a massively lucky distraction for him. And in fact, Poulsen later said, I was involved in a tussle with a Swedish player who I felt had provoked me twice. I saw red and I hit him. I would like to apologise to my teammates and the general public. It's the most stupid thing I've ever done. Morten Olsen, the manager, he told me afterwards there is no place on this stage for this sort of thing, and I have to agree. It happened at a time when we'd pulled back Sweden's lead and were in the driving seat. I can't condone it. His manager Morten himself said it was a black day for Danish football. Christian Poulsen wasn't the only one to blame for the episode, but that doesn't excuse what he did. Ultimately, Poulsen was banned for just 3 competitive matches.
See, you can see the other story here where the penalty is had. Sweden win by taking the penalty. That guy is entirely the villain. Poor old Ronny's still sitting in the stands having had his 2,000 beers or however many it was.
Yep.
And goes
back to his life.
They weren't about to win, were they? They were in trouble. So poor old Ronny really took the heat there.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to end on the Christian Poulsen thing, because I feel like in many ways he was protected, guarded from what would have been a really sticky incident for him to have got himself caught in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's remarkable! Now that is podcasting.
That's it for my story. The only thing I would like to mention is that obviously you might be aware if you're listening to this podcast recently, we're in the current Euros. That's why we're doing this special. And the Danish player Christian Eriksen that was involved in an incident where he suffered, I think it was a cardiac arrest on the pitch, and he was taken off rather dramatically to hospital, and he is now recovering. So just from History Happened Everywhere to Christian Eriksen, his family, and the Danish supporters, just wish you all the best and wish him well.
Best wishes, guys. And thank you for everything you contributed to that, because you really made that an excellent, excellent half of football history.
And the referee blows his whistle, brings proceedings to a close at half-time.
All right, yes, and as you know, Ryan, I've provided some snacks. By provided, I mean I made you prepare some snacks. So do you want to just talk about what we've got here? No, I will, in fact. No, you do it. You tell me what you've got here.
Okay. So what I have in front of me is half a baguette that has had a hole carved through the middle and a Frankenfurter shoved down the middle of it, covered in ketchup.
Yes, that is an exactly accurate description. It is a bit of long bread with a hole drilled in, with a Frankfurter
sausage
sloshed in ketchup, yammed in it.
Yeah.
Now, this is a Ketwurst.
Okay.
This is an East German snack.
Ooh.
Because, of course, the hamburger was a capitalist Western pig invention.
Ah.
So they invented their... and this was literally invented. So it took, apparently, the State Gastronomic Research Centre to invent the sausage shoved in a hole in some bread.
Right. And is this traditional for German footballers to eat this? Because this seems unhealthy for a German footballer.
Yeah, it's not for the footballers. I guess it's one for the fans. But
and we are fans.
It's an East German concoction. So
lovely.
We're looking back to the days of East Germany.
Well, as a pork-loving Danish fan, I'm ready to eat my goods.
Well, there you go. So you have a munch of that and then wash it down with a delicious shot of Jägermeister. How is it, Ryan?
Oh, that's pretty good.
It's pretty good. Okay, I'm not going to bite into it yet because I'm also going to tell you why on earth I have given you a shot of Jägermeister.
Okay.
Bit of German football history. We're in half time, so this is nowhere near my time period. But I thought it was quite interesting. I came across it, right? So apparently one of the first official shirt sponsorships in any European league was in Germany.
Nice.
This was in 1973, right? In the German Bundesliga. And basically what happened was there was this football team called Braunschweig, and they were doing pretty bad financially. They were in a hole, and they happened to be located near the factory where they make the drink Jägermeister.
Oh.
So the guys at Jägermeister said, well, we would like to sponsor you. And the German league said, so we do not allow sponsorship. That's crazy. We don't want to put your logo on the shirt. So what they did was they gave the team a lot of money, and the team changed their club crest to the Jägermeister logo. And thereby got around the rule of not being able to have a sponsored shirt.
Wow. So it's a stag or something, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Kind of Ant Louis stag. And they had to apparently make some tweaks to it, so it wasn't quite the Jägermeister logo, but it was the Jägermeister logo.
Sure, yeah.
So that
instantly recognisable.
Absolutely. So then that way the club got the money, the sponsors got their sponsorship, and the league eventually
eventually he kind of went, yeah, okay, I guess we allow sponsorship now because that didn't work at all.
I like being an East German football fan.
It's not bad, is it?
This is a tasty snack.
Well, you'll find out more about that later. But yes, this is my contribution to the halftime munchings. I'd love to have been in the lab when I meant, have we thought of shoving a Frankfurter in some bread? Oh my God, I love it.
We've tried a bap. We've tried a croissant. Have you tried a bagel? It's got the hole and everything.
Let's beg the question of what were the rejected ideas they had. Can we balance the sausage on top of the bread? No, it'll just roll off.
I want some more ketchup.
Well, an excellent first half, Ryan. I found it very compelling. Could you bring my drink when you're going?
Oh, I need to go over and be interviewed, don't I?
Oh, yeah.
Are you going to be interviewed as well? You should be, right?
Yeah.
I love our podcast. We get to eat hot dogs and
We
things.
do. So it must be said that East German culinary invention is perhaps not as elite as one might have hoped. But nevertheless, it is rather tasty, so I have no complaints.
Yeah, I mean, this is working class people food, right?
Absolutely.
Bavarian barons are not eating these.
So listen, you finish that up. I've got to go and do my interview.
Oh, okay.
I'll be right back.
Okay.
So, Pete, that was a fascinating first half for us watching the event. What was it like for you down on the touchline?
Well, I mean, Ram's always going to be a difficult opponent. He's really fielded some tremendous facts, some fascinating history. I think we've got work cut out for the second half.
And has that first half performance made you think about maybe some tactics, bringing in some substitute facts potentially for the second half?
Yeah, I think I had some facts I was going to keep in reserve, but I really think I need to start with my best lineup for the next half for sure.
And what are your predictions right now for how this is going to go? What do you think is going to happen in the next 45 minutes?
Well, I think at the end of the day, history is the real winner. I think we're going to pull out some excellent facts, some entertaining and fascinating fun history, and I think it's going to be a score for Germany. All right, I'm back.
How'd it go?
Well, I haven't had my half yet, so I just had to. I didn't want to give too much away, but equally, I think it's at the end of the day, football is the real winner.
I've run out of sausage in my thing.
Well, now it's just bread.
Yeah, so now I'm going to go and get another one and be a completionist.
The multi-sausage Ketwurst is an innovation. You should get onto the State Gastronomic Research Institute.
Right.
So,
man, that was good Frankenwerter.
Filled a gap, didn't it?
It really did. So what's this drink then?
This is your Jägermeister.
In our HHE shot glasses. So what do? Do we drink this?
We do.
Do I down it?
Down it.
Oh,
cheers. We cheers and we drink.
Right, over my laptop.
And we sing the Danish drinking song.
Yeah. Aye.
Medicinal.
Essentially, okay. Well, that came as a second wave halfway through me saying that was okay.
That'll hit you.
Oh, but I've got to go for my interview.
Oh, right. Okay, good luck. Have a good one.
Cheers.
So, Ryan, a very good first half, I think, there. How was it for you from your point of view?
We put our all into that. We really have worked very hard over the past week or so in preparation for this.
Is there anything you could have done differently in that first half?
Yeah, you can always do better. That's what I tell the guys, and we're going to take away some lessons from this, which we'll put into practice for our future games.
And are you necessarily worried about what Pete is going to give you in the second half? Do you think you're ready for it?
No, we've done our research. We sort of understand where Germany is. We know the kinds of facts that they're likely to have. So no, we're fully prepped and ready for this.
Okay, no chance of it going to extra time and penalties. So that's good. It means that you're not going to be too tired to carry on, and maybe whatever happens next in the competition, then you'll be ready for that.
That's right, Jim. Yeah, we're hoping to get this sorted as soon as possible. Move on to the next round.
Let's head back and join the action again for the second half.
All right.
How'd it go?
Yeah, all right.
Okay, good. Right. Are you limber? Do we need to do any warming up, or should we just run straight into the second half?
Well, I was thinking we should have a classic segment of Orange.
Halftime Orange?
Halftime Orange.
I like it.
All right, so I've got some here.
Nice. Funnily enough, I actually did a little light Googling around the origin of the halftime orange.
Yeah.
I found nothing. Absolutely nothing. Nobody knew why we have oranges at halftime particularly.
Okay. So if anybody out there knows why we have halftime oranges, perhaps you would be so kind as to let us know at hhepodcast@gmail.com.
Right, here we go. Vitamin C. I can't help but feel your halftime snack is vastly healthier than what I had to offer.
I don't know why you're putting yours in bread, though, covering it in ketchup. That seems gratuitous.
I couldn't help it. The State Gastronomic Research Centre said everything is better in bread smothered in ketchup.
Oh, man, the flavour of this is great. You're just eating the whole thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not. I'm sucking the juice.
Oh, I woofed it right down.
Yeah, we got different attitudes towards our sections of orange. See, that's. I'm eating the Danish way, and you're eating the German way.
It's the German way, my friend.
Which is best? You decide. Oh,
right.
That went everywhere.
Vitamin C, invigoration, health.
I now have orange juice all over my laptop. I mean, my kit. Oh, man. Oh, no, it really is over my kit.
It's almost as if the German method is vastly more efficient and doesn't result in an absolute spread of orangey juices all over one's precious football top.
Do you want me to run over there and punch you? Like, do a Ronny Norvig.
Don't make me Ronny Norvig you. Let's bring that back. Poor old Ronny Norvig just about getting his life back together. And somehow history happened everywhere brings doing a Ronny Norvig back into common parlance. Oh my Lord. Oh, that would be awful, wouldn't it? I feel bad even talking about it.
I feel like I should have hired an actor to come running in here midway during your...
Going, Ronny Norvig!
Just punch you in the face.
Just at the last minute. Oh, dear.
The stage is set. The talking, once again, finished at half-time. The players are back out on the pitch. The managers are there, stretching and raring to go. It's Germany's opportunity now. Let's go back to the action.
Right, Germany. We've already established where Germany is, just under Denmark, which is middle of Europe, Central Europe, Mittel Europa, if you will. It is a place of about 357,000 square kilometres. That's about 65% of a France.
Oh.
That surprised me. I thought Germany was bigger than France. It's actually quite a lot smaller.
I mean, perhaps it was at one point.
Well, yes. I mean, it's Germany and there's Germany. It's
fluctuated in size, hasn't it? Let's just say that.
But I do recall you trying to score a few trivial points in your description of how Denmark was better than Germany.
Because it was an intercontinental state.
Yeah. And
is Germany an intercontinental state?
Well, what's the population of Denmark?
Oh, we're going to go population, are we?
Yeah, I'm going to go with population. We're going to top trump this.
It was 5.8 million.
Yeah, 83 million, my friend. 83 million people from whom to select the finest footballers the world has ever known.
Yeah, that's true.
So Germany has a flag, obviously. It's had a number of flags over its history, which we won't labour too much.
Oh, a surprisingly deft touch there from the big man. That's very admirable in this situation.
And it has a national anthem, and we will have a quick listen to the national anthem.
Nice.
I kind of hope that what you'll patch in is David Hasselhoff singing something. But that's Germany. I don't want to dwell on Germany too much because people are aware of Germany. What are they famous for? Sausages. What are they famous for? Football. What are they famous for? Famous Germans.
There's one I could think of.
Well, you see, and there's Austrian as well. So,
we shouldn't have done Jägermeister before talking about Germany.
We probably shouldn't, but
we might have to re-record all of this.
Because it is relevant, because actually our time period is 1964 and the war, the Second World War specifically, for those people not aware, looms large actually in the landscape, even the decade afterwards. So our story is one of post-war recovery, in fact. So I know we made light slightly of Germany being Germany in the war, but that's actually really pertinent to what we're going to talk about.
Okay.
People have been commenting on the subjects that the managers have, but it really is true. At this level, there are no easy topics to discuss on a history podcast.
So actually, it may shock you to learn. So when I pulled the country Germany last week, it was like, okay, Germany. So then I start my investigations. And in fact, the question that I first had to answer was, which Germany?
Yeah, of course. East and West, right?
Well, East, West, and Germany number 3. Actually, for a while after World War II, there were 3 German nations. Right? There was West Germany, as you identified, East Germany, and there was Saarland. Saarland.
Never heard of Saarland.
Absolutely. The Saar, and neither had I. The Saar Protectorate was a French-controlled area, so it's where Germany borders France. Quite resource-rich, so that's why the French wanted to control it. And that had its own national football team from 1950 to 1956.
No way.
So in that period, there was an East German team, a West German team, and a Saarland team. So 3 recognised German national teams.
Okay, wow.
1954, France and West Germany ended the protectorate status. France wanted to just make an independent nation of Saarland, but they had a vote, and the Saar's population voted 67% to just become part of West Germany. So for a short period there was 3 German national teams, and Saarland was one of them.
Amazing.
So they get absorbed into West Germany, and then we get to what you mentioned, which is you've got East Germany and West Germany, and that's basically what I'm going to be talking about.
Right.
Because rather than focusing on the championship, there's 2 countries that are both Germany, and I'm going to talk about how football represented them and how they engaged through the medium of football.
Nice.
So now we've got East and West Germany, but I don't know if you are aware of the status of Berlin.
No.
So Berlin is a city that is in East Germany. It's fully enclosed by East Germany, but it is divided after the war into controlled areas controlled by the French, Americans, the UK, and the Russians, or the Soviet Union. Rather.
Distinct areas for each of those? Or
So literally the town is divided into controlled areas, but most importantly...
So there's like a UK area and a Russian area.
Absolutely.
Okay, not like they were sharing control of one area.
No, so each is like an almost independent entity. And the most important division is you've got the east of Berlin, which is controlled by the Soviet Union, and you've got the west of Berlin, which is controlled by the Allies. So we can probably munge them into East and West Berlin.
Sure.
So what that means is you've got part of a town that is fully enclosed in East Germany that is part of West Germany.
Yep.
So that's a weird situation on its own, and things get... Obviously, this is very emblematic of the Cold War. You've got East and West right next to each other. You have a period where the Soviets tried to take Berlin back by just blockading it, and that was a period known as the Berlin Airlift, when the people of the West just flew fleets and fleets of planes over to airdrop supplies into West Berlin, to keep them going, basically.
Wow.
So it became like incredibly symbolically significant. And that is important to football as well in what we're going to talk about.
I mean, it's almost impossible to get away from politics in this era, right?
Absolutely. And my topic is business. But what you will find is, what I'm also going to talk about is, basically, this is the battle of 2 systems. So business is fundamentally a capitalist enterprise, and you've got a capitalist system and you've got a non-capitalist system.
Yeah, of course.
So this is the way in which I'm going to be talking about business in football in Germany, or Germanese in this case.
Wunderbar.
Thank you very much. That was very well done.
Thanks.
They really have come out of the traps very fast today here at the HHE Stadium in Croydon.
So we're going to start off in West Germany, if I may.
You may.
And we're going to start with a miracle.
Is it Jesus?
No, it is not. It is a footballing miracle. So, as you may be aware, that there was the Second World War, and Germany very much lost that war. It was a nation defeated, and it was, as you might be after a significant war like that, it's a batter to one's self-esteem. So in 1954, there was a World Cup.
Right.
Okay. The West German team was in the World Cup, and they make it to the World Cup final.
Nice.
Right. So 4th of July, 1954, and I'm going to try and say this with a straight face. On the 4th of July, 1954, in the Wankdorf Stadium in Bern, Switzerland.
Wankdorf?
The Wankdorf.
Okay. Why are you laughing? That's the name of it.
In the Wankdorf Stadium.
Yeah, the Wankdorf, yeah.
It's the World Cup final.
Interestingly, the Wankdorf Stadium was the home of the football club Young Boys, and it's a little bit of a fact for you there, with nothing else to say.
Okay, you've got West Germany, who 4 years prior to this didn't even exist as a team. And then they're playing Hungary, known as the Mighty Magyars.
Yeah, Magyars, yeah.
Right? They have played...
Magyars, what they call themselves, right? That's
Magyar is Hungarian for Hungarian.
Yeah.
So this is 1954, right? The Mighty Magyars have played since 1950, 4 years previously. They've played 30 games.
Yeah.
They have not lost.
Oh, wow.
This is why they're called the Mighty Magyars, right?
That's fascinating.
In 1953, they went to Wembley and beat England, the first people to actually do that. Then, just for good measure, played England again and beat them 7-1. Germany's team, semi-professional if you're lucky.
Right.
They were actually required to have a job as well as their footballing role.
Okay.
One of them ran a laundrette.
Yeah.
Right. So this is the two teams facing off in this World Cup final. So does anyone think Germany can win? Probably not. The unstoppable Hungarians versus the guy who runs a laundrette.
So if you had some Deutsche Marker, who are you going to put your Deutsche Marker on?
Probably pop them on the Magyars, wouldn't you? But the game starts. 8 minutes in. Hungary's 2-0 up.
Wow.
It's going very much according to expectations.
Yeah, my money
start.
is safe.
But then 2 minutes later, 10 minutes in, Germany get a goal back.
Okay.
It's 2-1 now. Something's getting interesting. The German team really step it up.
Yep.
Another 8 minutes later, Germany score again.
Equalise.
It's 2-2.
Nice.
Right, then it's back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Nobody scores.
Yeah.
It's 2-2 all the way through to the 84th minute.
I love it.
6 minutes from time, Germany's Helmut Rahn fires the ball into the bottom corner of the net. 3-2 to Germany.
You are kidding.
1954, Germany wins the World Cup.
Wow. Okay.
I am wearing a 1954 World Cup winning Germany shirt. Everyone wants to wear the shirt of a cup winner, and that's what I got to do.
That's amazing. And so that's the first World Cup that they'd won?
It's the first World Cup that they've won.
Is it the first ever World Cup that they'd taken part in?
No, I don't know. Probably not, I would say. I mean, as West Germany, it gets complicated because was it Germany or West Germany?
Right.
But no, this game is known as the Miracle in Bern, or the Wunder von Bern.
I think what we might be seeing is an attempt to keep the pace up in the second half and make sure that it doesn't drop below that particular level that it needs to be at this level of international podcasting.
So this is absolutely massive event, right? Because the nation was depressed essentially after the Second World War, and this was a moment of West Germany rising up and getting self-respect again.
Sure, absolutely.
Right, so
world respect.
Absolutely. So a German writer, Friedrich Christian Delius, said, "A guilt-ridden, inhibited nation was suddenly reborn."
Wow.
Right? Franz Beckenbauer, you may have heard of.
I have, yeah.
He said, "For anybody who grew up in the misery of the post-war years, Bern was an extraordinary inspiration. The entire nation regained its self-esteem."
It's incredible what a game can do, right?
A game of football, and suddenly a whole nation feels hope again. And this is what's going to come across repeatedly, is the sort of the potential of football as a means for your nation to actually feel good about itself.
Yeah, a psychological boost. It's astonishing. So, I guess it works the other way as well, though, right? Like if you're constantly losing, perhaps there is that feeling of demoralization.
Well, I think there's a middle ground to be had, isn't it? Because if you're constantly losing, you're probably just a sort of minnow nation that anything is a success because you always lose. I think it's if you constantly underperform, that's where the risk lies, where you think you should be doing better and you're not.
Yeah.
If you were Liechtenstein, I can imagine they're pretty much okay with not having won a World Cup.
They have it enough.
They do. I'm sorry, Liechtenstein. So that's, I wanted to start there because that's kind of the rebirth of West German football, particularly.
Also, if you're West Germans, are they looking on with jealous eyes?
So it's quite complicated. At that time, I'm not sure if East Germany was recognised at that time, because also bear in mind that there were nations not recognising each other's existence even in this period.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if they were in that one, but what we're about to cover is quite a lot of this ground of how two nations that don't even acknowledge each other's existence can interact through the medium of football.
Okay, cool.
Right, so West Germany's back in business, as it were. See what I did there? Back in business. So I'm going to get straight to 1964 now. So I'm going to talk about the 1963-64 season.
Yep.
Because obviously seasons cross years, so I can't just do the 1 year. And as it happens, my good fortune is that 63-64 was the year the Bundesliga was invented. It was the first year of the Bundesliga.
And the Bundesliga is like the
top league, the top main best league in West Germany in this case.
Okay.
So West Germany was a capitalist nation, unlike East Germany, and so their football was professional.
Okay.
Which we'll contrast later with the East German approach. Professional, but not super professional, funnily enough. They had pay caps in place, and you could get in trouble for paying too much to your players and too many inducements to your players. Now, this caused a problem for the Berlin clubs, because you remember we said Berlin was a sort of enclave of West Germany entirely encompassed within East Germany.
Yeah.
Consequently, it's not a place that a lot of people necessarily want to go to. So if you're trying to attract players from all of West Germany, the thought of being in this little island of West Germany, otherwise surrounded by the East, isn't massively appealing. So this is a problem for West Berlin teams, because they couldn't really get the players to come and play there because of the stresses of being in East Berlin particularly. So clubs, as they will, would need to find a way, and business being business, the teams would find a way to pay above the pay caps. And one such club was a team, one of the best teams in Berlin, called Hertha BSC. Hertha BSC in 1963 and 1964 did what they had to do to attract their talent, right? Unluckily for them, in February 1965, they get audited.
Okay.
And you couldn't write a script like this.
So the auditor comes in and he goes, so these players that got these payments that are way above the pay cap.
Yeah.
What are these? And they're like, snacks?
Really?
No, they basically went, this is obviously, you've overpaid, you've done sneaky payments to the players, and you've got to be punished. So the punishment was to get booted out of the league down to the next level.
Okay, yeah.
Now, this is a problem for West Germany because this was the only Berlin team that was going to be in the Bundesliga, and they don't want a top league without a Berlin team because Berlin is super symbolic of East and West Germany. So not having a top flight team in West Berlin is a political no-no.
Yeah.
So they go, right, we need a Berlin team. So they look around all the other Berlin teams. So they go to a team called Tennis Borussia Berlin, who and say, I'm not clear. There's a couple of versions of this as to whether they offered them this place in the Bundesliga or they didn't.
Okay.
But in any event, these guys who had already lost in the playoffs to various other non-Berlin teams were like, well, that's not fair. We can't be just shutting it up there.
Suddenly promoted to a league just because you need someone.
Right. So they went to the second best team from Berlin that didn't make it into the Bundesliga. And the second best team was Spandauer SV. And they went, well, that's not fair. We don't want to do that. That's crazy.
Oh, well, that's nice.
So they go to the third best team in Berlin, a team called Tasmania Berlin.
Tasmania raising its name again.
That was why I had a little chuckle to myself when you mentioned that earlier. But yeah, funny. Tasmania makes a little reappearance. Tasmania Berlin, the third best Berlin-based team in the league. They said, would you like to be in the Bundesliga, the top Premier League? And they said, well, yes, I think we will. That'll be great. So they say, all right, brilliant, good news, you're in the Bundesliga. Brilliant. Now, side note, the two teams who were being demoted went, whoa.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is these guys, who aren't even the best team in Berlin, get a promotion and we're getting demoted. And then the Bundesliga in Fellas went, oh, yeah, you're right, that's really unfair. So that year, they went from 16 clubs to 18 clubs. Nobody got demoted.
Okay.
And to this day, it's 18 clubs, actually.
Because of that?
Because
Amazing.
of that.
Okay, cool.
Oh, and with a fact like that, he certainly knows where Google is.
So, great. You've got a Berlin team. This is going to go well.
Yeah.
So
Just don't get relegated.
About that.
Oh, okay.
How did Tasmania Berlin do in their new season in the Bundesliga?
It's almost like they could have foreseen the fact that the third best team in Berlin might struggle to remain in the Bundesliga.
You'd think that, but so this team, bearing in mind, they found out that they were in the Premier League equivalent 3 weeks before the league started. Oh, wow. Most of them were on a holiday, and they're like, so could you pop back because we're in the top flight league now? These guys were super guys with jobs, you know. Even in the Bundesliga, they were caps, but these guys were just guys pretty close to amateur status, right? So the captain, a guy called Hans-Gunther Becker, said, the club wanted us to give up our jobs practically overnight. I told my employer I could only do half days. And then he ends it with, we all knew it was only going to last one season. This is not good.
That's the attitude of a team that you need.
Exactly. So they recruit one real professional player, a guy called Horst Zizmaniak.
Okay.
And the newspaper reported he looked, quote, completely out of place in a team of manual workers.
Oh, no.
So Tasmania, Berlin, everybody. So
fun if you're a supporter, though. Can you imagine?
Well, you were likely to go to the first game because they had a crowd of 81,000.
That is huge.
Right? For the third best team in Berlin. They win 2-0 over a team called Karlsruhe. Okay. So could this be the beginning of a rags to riches glory story?
I find that interesting because every now and then there are football games where you've got a complete outsider that goes on to win and everyone's shocked by it. But actually, when you think about it, if you're preparing for a game because you're a giant football club, you don't know these players. You don't know what the tactics are. You've probably not studied their previous games. A lot of their games might not have been, modern days televised or seen. You're kind of going in blind as opposed to
true. All your normal preparation
clubs.
Doesn't really apply. It's that sort of freaky upset, isn't it? You can imagine, what do we know about the left winger? Well, he's a plumber. He's got great welding skills. Yeah. So that's it. Game 1, 81,000 people, see them win 2-0.
Amazing.
Is this the beginning of something? No,
it's not.
It really is not.
Okay.
They then go on to lose or draw the next 31 games. The crowd thins out a bit, reaching a low of 857 people in one of their January fixtures. Yeah, that's it went from 81,000 to 857. You could probably name them all personally. They actually only won one other game in the entire season, the second to last match. How they pulled that out of the bag, I do not know.
Amazing.
So they are in fact remembered today as the worst ever team to play top-flight football. They set a number of records which stand to this day, including lowest point total, 8, fewest wins, 2, most losses, 28, fewest goals scored, 15, most scored against, 108, and the lowest match attendance of our 857.
Wow.
Oh, and he really gave that fact 110%.
I mean, the problem is that with that, from your business perspective, is you've got ticket sales to pay your players with if they're professional, right? And if you're getting 80,000 coming through your doors, you're easily able to pay those players and attract new players and keep going. If those numbers go down to 800,
if you've got basically 10 spectators to every player, that's
there's
not going to pay the
less
bills,
chance you're going to be able to retain your best talent.
Yeah. They
unless they're doing it out of the goodness of their heart or passion.
I believe there's still a team to this day in the lower leagues. It will perhaps not surprise you to learn. Didn't go great for them. I guess it's a real question, isn't it? Like, would you take your moment in the sun knowing...
Yeah, why wouldn't you?
Well, yeah.
Right?
Well, the first two didn't.
Well, no, but
they had hopes of making it legitimately at some point.
Exactly. Yeah, which is fair. Like, why wouldn't you? Yeah, if you knew that there was a chance you were going to get promoted anyway and properly, in the eyes of all your competitors...
Yeah, you wouldn't want that tainted victory, would you?
Exactly.
But if you had no hope, then...
Suddenly you're in the Bundesliga for a year.
Tasmania!
Worst case, one season, you make a bit of extra money. I think it's great.
So that's West German football in 63, 64, nudging into 65.
Okay.
East German have a different approach. They're under communism, right?
Yeah.
So business is not really approved of, but industry is a thing. State-controlled industry is how things are done. Profit isn't really a thing. Teams and players aren't professional because that's business and that's not what they're all about. But they also have a top-tier league, the Oberliga.
So sport is still a thing then?
Sport is a massive thing.
Okay.
But instead of being coalescing as their own business entities, what actually happens is that sports teams become attached to industries.
Oh.
So what happens is you have the railway team, the army team, so you don't have professional players, but what will happen is the power station team will have a team, but they want to do well, so they say, oh, well, that guy's really good at football. Let's give him a job in the power plant, and that job is train, play football all day long.
Okay, right.
So you've got non-professional players who are actually representatives of an industry, and so they're all but professional, but sort of on the books, they are employees who are just playing football for the works team.
Okay.
You will have noticed there are sort of football team names in Eastern Europe that sort of recur, and that's because of this background. This happened across Eastern Europe. So a team that's a locomotive is a railway team.
I've heard, Lokomotiv Moscow is one.
All right, so you may have heard, probably I hadn't heard this, but Vorwärts is the name that you get, team names with Vorwärts in. They were army teams.
Not heard of that.
Dynamo.
Oh, yeah, Dynamo Kiev.
So Dynamo, the police and security services teams.
No way, really? Yeah. That's fascinating. I did not know that.
This was a fact that, interestingly, wasn't used in preparations. However, it's been drafted into the squad at this late stage because of an injury to another fact.
So here's the thing, right? So again, we're in Berlin. Berlin's an important place. So the head of the security services, the Stasi, basically, a guy called Erich Mielke, big football fan, big communism fan,
right?
Combines his passion, right? And he says, football success will highlight even more clearly the superiority of our socialist order in the area of sport. So this is basically, if we beat everyone else at football, that shows that communism is brilliant.
Yeah, okay. I can see that, yeah.
So exactly in the same way as in West Germany, we saw them go, well, we need a Berlin side because we have to represent. He's the same way. He says we need a big side in East Berlin, and we haven't got one at the moment. So the way he goes about doing this, he's the head of the security services, so he's a powerful, powerful man, right. And also a horrible, horrible man. He has personally killed people.
Oh, okay.
This is the secret police. This isn't the police. This is the secret police. Right. So he decides East Germany needs a big side, so he gets the best facilities, the best coaching, the best nutrition, but he also phones the nation's best team, which is a team called Dynamo Dresden, and says, pack your bags, you're Dynamo Berlin now. So when the head of the secret police says, you now move into Berlin and you play for them, you go,
Okay.
I guess I'll come, right? So that's your transfer window, I suppose.
Yeah.
So this happened in 1954. They just moved the team wholesale, the best team, chucked them in Berlin because they needed a good team in Berlin. Both sides were feeling the same thing. Actually, this happened, this went on for a while, but in 1963, because football actually became weirdly quite powerful, the government had to agree that players should only change clubs if they actually wanted to.
Oh.
I mean, you would hope that wouldn't need legislation, but apparently that was a thing.
Which means that at some point that actually happened and someone was like, I don't want to go. And
The whole of Dresden, none of the Dresden players wanted to go. They just got moved. There was no choice in the matter.
Well, like you say, head of secret police demands it.
This is a killer, essentially. Yeah. So this is how Dynamo Berlin is born. Dynamo Berlin is basically taken from Dynamo Dresden. You'll notice they're both called Dynamo because they're both police teams.
Police teams, yeah.
Dynamo Berlin go on to dominate the league. They have everything on their side. They've got, obviously, the players, the facilities and everything else, and also the referees.
I was going to say, like this is a team you don't want to necessarily annoy or get on the wrong side of.
Right? Because it's tense, isn't it? So apparently a former East German referee called Bernd Heinemann said after one defeat of Berlin, the referees were summoned and told something like that mustn't happen anymore.
Oh.
Wow.
And that's a very controversial thing to happen, of course, and you would never see, particularly Pete, maybe bringing in Paul Dursley and demanding something similar of him in the post-match analysis.
So that's what's going on in Berlin, and that is the sort of the regular team football. But national football is obviously still also a thing. So 1964 is the Euros year that we are talking about. I'm not going to talk about it a lot because I'm going to try and focus on this Germany versus Germany thing. But very quickly, West Germany are described as did not enter. Okay. No West German presence at all. East Germany were in the first 16. But they went out, they lost to Hungary, ironically.
No way. Right.
But what I thought was interesting was, you talked about qualifying for the finals, the tournament part.
Yeah, the actual tournament.
The actual tournament part actually only had 4 teams in. It only had Denmark, Spain, Hungary, and the Soviet Union. I guess 1964, they didn't have the big TV and everything, and more games means more money. It was just a spectacle. And it ended up in a final, Spain versus the Soviet Union. Spain won, thanks in part to a sterling performance from Luis Suarez.
Wait, what?
Yeah, but the midfield player for Spain was a guy called Luis Suarez.
Really? Yeah. And Luis Suarez is a player now, that's why we're...
Yeah, who I've heard of, which makes him very famous.
Famous for biting.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he bit people during the game. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure he's famous for other things. But...
I like the way you said that so casually.
Oh, and he slides in with a good one there.
So that I just wanted to mention that because we are supposed to be talking about the Euros, but that's all I'm going to say about it. And that's because in 1964, it was a Euros year, but it was also an Olympic year.
Okay.
So that means there's another football championship to watch, Olympic football. You talked a little bit about Olympic football. Now I'm going to talk.
I mean, personally, I'm more of an intercalated Olympic Games fan.
Yeah, this is the more standard Olympic. The intercalated, I think, has faded away somewhat by this time.
I was there before it was popular.
So here's the thing. In Olympic football, the East and West German teams didn't play each other. They weren't part of a national circuit. But what you'll hear is that the East and West German teams only ever played each other once, they say.
Okay.
Which is true in some ways, and that was in the 1974 World Cup. But that's not true, because actually in 1964, it was an Olympic year and football was in the Olympics.
Yeah.
Now, this is where it gets weird. Initially, West Germany blocked the East from being part of the Olympics, but they eventually let in East Germany. But the Olympic Committee wouldn't allow West and East Germany to compete. They said, you can come, but only as an all-German united team of Germany.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Because they've done that with England before, where they're like, you have to be a Great Britain team.
Right, yeah, similar sort of thing.
England, yeah.
Now, unsurprisingly, East and West Germany did not go, let's pick the best and just go Germany and we can do this. They make a competition out of it. So they went, well, okay, so what we'll do is we'll have some pre-games. Whoever wins the pre-tournament can send their team as the united team.
Oh, really? Okay, right. So we're not going to play together, whatever the case.
No, we're not going to do that. What we're going to do is have a competition amongst ourselves. Whoever's the better Germany can be united Germany, which is about as metaphoric as you can get.
True, yeah. Yeah.
So the first, they did this for 2 Olympics, the 60 and the 64. For the 1960 ones, they played these games. They were called Geisterspiele, ghost games. And they were called that because these teams played one game in East Germany and one in West Germany. No spectators.
Okay, yeah.
They had officials and press came. That was it.
They are spooky, those games.
Right? There's the ball's in the net. Okay.
All right. Sure. It's like training, I guess.
So 1964 was slightly different. They did allow some spectators, so I guess it was a better game.
Just to confirm, the reason they didn't allow spectators wasn't for any other reason other than you couldn't allow people out of either West or East Germany to go and visit the stadium to then go back again.
I mean, there was and East Germany particularly also had a problem with people defecting.
Right.
So free travel was not quite as okay as it is now.
Yeah. Okay.
So who won for 1964? Well, West Germany had a disadvantage because the Olympics is an amateur event and West German football was professionalised, which meant West Germany could not send all its professional players. So East Germany have this huge advantage, which is that they're supposedly amateur players who aren't really amateur at all, are qualified to play in the Olympics, whereas all the professional players in West Germany are not. So they play these ghost games and East win and they go on to qualify for the Olympic Games and they go on to take the bronze medal.
No way.
So happy days for United Germany. Entirely consisting of East German players.
And did they share the spoils?
No, they did not. They went, no. Our system is substantially better than yours. Ha 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 ha. Also, take all these performance-enhancing drugs.
Is that true?
Yes, the East Germany was absolutely notorious for its extensive doping program, and it very much treated sport as a sort of extension of the Cold War. Football, ironically, did not benefit as much as other areas. One journalist once said to a East German football player, "Why don't we have any particularly tall players?" And he replied, "Because they are all made to do rowing." So,
I see. So
other Olympic events took priority in terms of the East German doping sporting industry.
Oh, and that is controversial. Oh, they'll be talking about that in the papers tomorrow morning.
So good news for East Germany, but there was, as I said, one game where East met West for reals.
Nice.
This is the 1974 World Cup. West Germany played the East, the only time at their international level for 41 years. They were both in the same group of the World Cup. They meet each other and they play one game. East Germany beat West Germany 1-0.
Okay.
So that makes them a team, right?
I guess, yeah.
Except West Germany won the World Cup that year.
Wait, how?
Because it was a group game.
Oh, I see. Right, okay. So they weren't knocked out by losing, but they then went on to win the whole thing.
So East Germany won the only time they ever met, and it was actually the same year that the other team, the West Germans, went on to actually win the World Cup.
These Germans like to win things. You notice that?
They do a huge amount of that.
He had all the time in the world to play that fact, and he did it with aplomb.
So Germany obviously got reunited. It became a powerhouse of football that we know today. It's won several World Cups. Let's take a moment to reflect back on our Hungarian friends, the mighty Magyars, who were this unstoppable force at the beginning of our tale.
Yeah.
What this game needs is a truly killer fact. We're expecting it any second now.
That's the best they've ever done. They've never reached that stage since that date.
Oh, he's fluffed it. Oh, the crowd are disappointed with that one.
So that is the story of East and West German football in and around 1964.
And there it is. The referee blows his whistle, bringing an end to the proceedings here in this festival of podcasting. I think it's all over. It is now. So fresh off the pitch, I get to talk to Pete. And Pete, how do you think that went?
It was good. I mean, we were slightly nervous. Our facts are a lot older than Ryan's facts, obviously. We were at an older time period, but I think the boys got out there and they did everything that I hoped they would.
So that experience, you think, paid off in the end?
Yeah, I think they showed a lot of heart and a lot of courage. They dug deep and they really brought the goods.
And what do you think that the people back home will be thinking of that performance from you? Do you think that that'll go down well with the public?
I think we really put on a kind of an entertaining podcasting delight that people enjoy. I think at the end of the day, we did everything we could, and I'm happy with the result.
Pete, thank you very much. And let's talk to Ryan. Ryan, you've just been watching down there on the touchline. How did that work out for you?
Well, it was pretty much as expected. Pete has obviously put in a lot of effort and a lot of work. It's one of the greater competitors that one of us can face. It was a pleasure and a delight taking this team on, and everyone was the winner from watching such a competitive battle.
And I think that's a great message to send to those children at home looking up to two podcast titans like yourselves.
Thank you very much. Yeah, absolutely.
And don't forget that we're going to have the official insight and analysis analysis on this performance in our sister podcast,
The Verdict,
with everyone's favourite pundit, Paul Dursley.
Oh, Christ.
And with the game done here, we can now go live over to the Durzelator Centre in Chiswick for the draw for the next round.
Thank you very much, Jim. Hello, and welcome to the draw for the next round here in the Durzelator head office in the prestigious Chiswick Shopping Centre Parking Annex. There are 250 places in today's draw, including Durzelator debutantes Tropic of Cancer, the Equator, and the newly promoted African Union. Wildcards are included, while additions to topics include newcomers' parenthood, the extra mile, and adding insult to injury, all fresh into the mix. Joining me here are two former players who participated in previous classic episodes, Krampus from the Traditions in Austria episode, and the Pope from episode 19, Business in Liechtenstein. Hello to you both.
Hello, John. I am Krampus.
Yes, indeed. Hello, the Pope here. You may kiss the ring.
You've both been involved in previous episodes, so what is your advice for Peter on this new one?
Make it funny and full of facts.
Although he is the devil, I find myself agreeing with Mr. Krampus.
Yes.
One must apply oneself to the holy trinity of podcasting: honesty, integrity, and comedy.
Okay, thank you both. Let's get on with the draw. Now, as with previous episodes, the first round draw is location. The Durzelator is humming away in readiness. Krampus, would you mind giving the button a good hard press and let's get going?
Okay, John. The location is Senegal.
Senegal. Well, that's the first time that the plucky African nation has been selected by the Durzelator. The Pope, would you mind pressing the button to select our time period?
But of course, my child. And the time is Bronze Age. That's 3000 to 1300 before our Lord Jesus Christ.
Okay, a second appearance there for Bronze Age, appearing first in episode 12, Science in Turkey. And finally, Krampus, would you please Durzelate the third section and give us our topic?
Okay, John. And the topic is flight.
Interesting. That is the first time that we have seen flight in the competition so far.
Yes, John. I hope we'll be entertaining, like the slaughter of innocents.
So there we are, flight in Senegal during the Bronze Age. That's 3000 to 1300 BCE. So
before Jesus Christ.
Thank you, gents, for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that concludes the Durzelator draw. Peter can start his preparation for the match, and I look forward to joining you all for that episode on the 15th of July.
So that means all that's left to say is...
You've been listening to...
History happened everywhere.
I've been Jim Colson, talking in this ridiculous accent all the way through this podcast. Thank you very much for listening. I just can't keep that up anymore, I'm sorry. You can find out more about me at bewildereddad.com. I do a podcast called the Loose Dads Podcast. Search for that where you get your podcasts. And I'm really chuffed to be on History Happened Everywhere. It's my favourite. Thanks, Ryan and Pete. Thank you.
Wait, he's not a commentator?
Then where do you get him from?
He just dialed in on this Zoom call.
I thought you got him.
No.
Oh, man.
Gonna have to go now, sorry. I mean, this really has been great podcasting, but a lot of people will say in the tabloid papers, can they do it on a rainy Tuesday night in Scunthorpe?